You get a temp pad. You get a temp pad. You get a temp pad. Hey, welcome everybody to another brand new spoiler review episode for Loki here from the
Geek
Buddies.
Hey! We're back again to tackle episode 3 of the first season of Loki. I am the Outlaw John Rocha, joined as always by my two brothers here in the Geek Buddies and a special guest today, Michael.
Michael Vogel, writer and producer of animated TV shows and movies.
Jen.
And this is Shannon McClung. I'm an animation writer and a television actor where you may have seen me on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Silicon Valley, and Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Ooh, and of course, every week since episode 2, joining us here, Emma Fyffe, back for a little Loki discussion. Emma, how are you?
I'm great. This episode had some very important milestones for the MCU that I cannot wait to talk about. It was baby steps, but it's still so important. And yeah, and honestly, I have to say about this episode, I felt like I was watching a very good episode of Doctor Who, and I don't mean that in a bad way.
Thank you. First, I mean, Emma, the Doctor Who comparisons were off the charts as I was watching this episode. I'm like, oh, okay, now it's cool to do this because it's Marvel. Where were you people before? Are you American fans for Doctor Who? So for sure. And Shannon, you might be on Lamentus right now. You're a little fuzzy, so I don't know if you want to go out and come back in, and maybe you'll have a better reception with your internet because you're kind of choppy. Am I
really?
That? Yeah, a little bit, but maybe it'll correct itself. It looks like you're fine right now. If it gets worse, we'll have you go in and out for sure. But let's keep going. And what we do here on our spoiler reviews, in case you're new to the show, we break it down by section throughout the show and get our and talk about what's going on in each section and have our thoughts on it, speculate on some Easter eggs, some possible allusions to things overall. So certainly now that Abomination is apparently in Shang-Chi, sky's the limit about references and what could show up in any of these shows or movies in the MCU. This one is called Lamentus, and let's go around the horn. Emma kind of gave us our thoughts already. Mikey, what did you think about this episode?
You know what? A part of me was a little frustrated that we didn't get all the answers that we want about Sylvie and who she really is and everything else, but it replaced that with just some amazing character work, some amazing, like a visual location that was really cool. And it just slowed down and gave us these two amazing characters to play off of each other. And I think the strength of this show, whether it's Owen Wilson's Mobius or Sylvie or Tom Hiddleston's Loki, obviously, like these characters, these actors that are bringing their A game and bouncing off of each other is fun. So despite a little bit of like, oh my God, this show is so good, we only have 6 episodes, I need to know more, I need to know what happened, I thought it was kind of nice that they took their time out a little bit to really just let these two sort of live with each other for an episode.
Yeah, it certainly was a very much two-person episode. We'd seen Mobius kind of handle the second side of things in the first 2 episodes, Shannon, but in this episode, very clearly, it was the two Lokis, or Lady Loki possibly, or what her, exactly, or maybe, I don't know, and Loki having it. What do you think about this first, their interactions in this episode?
In her file, she is listed as Sylvie. Laffy daughter. So daughter of Laffy. So it seems like that's what she is. I mean, that's what it says there in print. As far as the episode is interesting, because when I pulled up the menu and you see that it's 42 minutes compared to the other two, I was like, no, what happened?
Yeah.
But I think actually what we got, I think that shorter runtime was good because I get that there could be a perception of like it was a little bit of running in place. But you're running in place on Lamentus in this incredible environment. Yeah. And the conversations that the two of them were having were just, I mean, one, incredibly layered, but incredibly, like, I love watching good actors act. And that's what happened. And some of the mechanisms they used in this episode, one right at the beginning that I can't wait to talk about, just really, really smart filmmaking. I get that some folks may have been a little frustrated that we didn't get further, we didn't get more answers because we only have 3 episodes left, but I agree with Vogel that this was a necessary chapter.
Yeah, sometimes it's okay to slow down a little bit, get to know the characters, get to hear them talk, get to know a little bit of the background so that when all the stuff pops off, you've got some foundational knowledge about these relationships and these characters, so you know what context to put this stuff in. Emma, any thoughts to add to what Michael and Shannon said, or shall we jump into the episode?
I was just going to say to the point about this being an episode where we really got to live with these characters. We just met Sylvie at the end of the last episode, and by the end of this episode, I really loved her. So, not a waste.
It did its job. That's a great point, Emma. Absolutely. All right. Without further ado, let's jump into this thing. All right. We start off with it. By the way, this is written by Bisha K. Ali and directed by Kate Herron. Again, I think she's directing all the episodes. We start out with some good dance music, smooth dance music going on here. And then suddenly it's Sylvie and Hunter C20 at a tropical restaurant. We hear a funny explanation about brain freeze, kind of a little bit of friendly banter, flirting talk there. And then Sylvie tries twice through enchantment to get Hunter C20 to reveal who is guarding the timekeepers, how many guardians there are in front of the timekeepers. We cut to both of them then back at the Rocks cart just before Loki, Mobius, and the TVA arrived in the last episode in the rain, in that monsoon or hurricane that's happening. Sylvie finds out from Hunter C20 that the elevators leading the timekeepers are gold. So that gives you a little clue where she needs to go. Then we cut to the TVA as the Minutemen are going through the portals. Sylvie shows up through another portal, the portal that we saw her open at the end of last episode. Her magic, as she comes upon some Minutemen, doesn't seem to work. So she does it the old-fashioned way, takes them all out with their own glowy power sticks. And thus then Loki comes through the same portal that Sylvie just come through, and then it closes. He grabs his knives from the locker. Remember, that was a thing that was alluded to last episode, and then rolls up on Sylvie in front of the golden elevators. They have an old-fashioned fight. He complains that she lacks vision, and then Ravonna shows up with some of the Minutemen. Sylvie threatens to kill Loki. She's like, I'm cool with that. Go ahead and kill him. And as she steps forward to swing at them, Loki pulls out the temp pad and takes them out through a portal in the ground. Mikey, what a great start to the episode. Talk to me. What did you think about this whole intro here and what we're seeing a little more of Sylvie's powers as well?
Yeah, well, I thought it was really interesting. I love opening things up and just throwing us completely off base. Like, we see Sylvie, she's sitting there. Like, I was like, oh, wait, is this a flashback from before she became a variant? Like, I didn't really recognize C20 right away. And so it was really, really interesting. And it took me a minute. You know, I mean, as soon as she's like, where are the timekeepers? Why won't, how many people are guarding the timekeepers? You're like, oh, okay, I get it. We're doing a thing. Right. And like, oh, this is what she's doing when she enchants somebody. I get it now. Like, we're seeing this moment. And so I thought it was a really great way to sort of open us up. I also think there might be something to showing us this, but we'll get to it later, illustrating what someone feels like when they're being enchanted, but we'll get to that later as a possibility. Yeah. And then what was really great, a couple things. I do think it's probably important to note that Sylvie, as much as she seems to know about the TVA and the timekeepers, didn't know that her magic wouldn't work. Like, she is clearly surprised by that. Yeah. So, you know, there's limits to how much she knows or how much she's aware of. And then, and this is something I'm going to keep coming back to because I loved it, which sort of confirms to me that she's clearly not a Lady Loki. Maybe she is related to Loki. Maybe she is an enchantress, but whatever. But she operates completely. Loki is a agent of chaos who never knows what he's going to do in any moment and just tries to make everything as chaotic as possible and then take advantage of the situation. But he doesn't ever really go in with a plan, which Sylvie brings up later. Sylvie is very organized, has a plan, knows exactly what she wants, all business. Like, she's all about the goal, and Loki is just flopping around, just trying to like play all the angles. And so I really loved, even like in this very first interaction with them at the beginning, you're like, okay, like they're not the same. Like, kind of like what we said last week, where he was like, a Loki would never treat me this way. Like, she's definitely, whatever she is, she's not a Loki. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like there's definitely something other than that going on.
Yeah, absolutely. Emma, Michael brings up interesting points because, certainly Sylvie had a plan here. Everything was set up to be at that Rocks car so she could go through the portal to get to the TVA. Loki's just making it up as he goes along, jumps through the door, looks for his knives, confronts her, and just kind of and then hits that temp pad to get out of there. What stood out for you in this opening sequence and the interaction between her and Hunter C20?
So I did recognize Hunter C20 right away. So but then I also had a similar reaction to you, Mike, that like I said, instead of thinking, oh, is this from before Sylvie became a variant? There was another layer for me of, did she previously have a relationship with this character, Hunter C20? But then again, as we say, we figured out that it was that she was inside of her brain and we were seeing exactly what was happening when people do get enchanted. I loved the fight scene in the TVA because we don't get to necessarily see a lot of good old-fashioned martial arts, especially in the MCU, because all of these characters are so super powered. There's usually flying and blasting and magic, and it was cool to see a whole sequence wherein, again, their magic doesn't work. We know that Loki's magic doesn't work in the TVA. He has to be outside of the TVA in order for his magic to work. So then to have Sylvie come in and experience that for herself, but then immediately jump into action and use the staff's weapons against them to dissolve them, it was pretty cool.
Yeah. It was kind of reminiscent a little bit of the Daredevil fight scene in the hallway, right?
Exactly right.
Her handling business and zapping them out of existence. Shannon, there was some nice back and forth between Sylvie and Hunter C20 in that scene as well. Because she's like, oh, how long have we been best friends? And all this, like, really some interesting tactics, enchanting in a different way with words rather than touch. So fascinating to see all the tools that she has in her arsenal throughout. Oh, and then she can also kick some ass and subdue Loki.
Yeah, the moment that scene started and we see that we're in the past and the year doesn't come up, the place doesn't come up. It's like, oh, okay, so this is not real right now. And then you hear the way that Sylvie is sort of manipulating or trying to direct the conversation. And to me, I'm like, this is like when a regular person dreams. That you're having this really in-depth conversation with a person you're connected to, but you don't know them. And you see those moments where Hunter C20 is like, wait, this isn't right. And then Sylvie basically adjusts the frequency. Suddenly it's night. And then she does it again. She's like, I know this place, but I don't know you. And so I think this definitely answers the question in episode 2 when C20 is going, it's real, it's real, it's real. I mean, she's literally looking at this place that she from her past saying, this is real, this is real. Getting into that fight scene in the hallway, I had the same thought as well. It's like, oh, she's not been to the TVA before because she would know that her magic doesn't work there. But that moment that Sylvie does a backflip kick onto a wall and she's able to pause there for a second. The coolest stunt work. That was probably assisted by wires, but it's so subtle and it's so fast. It just makes it incredibly exciting for the audience. I love the opening.
Yeah, I mean, this whole episode is such a showcase for Sophia Di Martino as an actress. Like, this is such a showcase for her. I bet there are directors and producers who watch this episode are like, I got to use this woman in something. It's certainly right from the beginning. You sense that. I don't want to walk past the Ravonna moment either. Her coming in saying, like, you kill Loki, I don't give a crap. Like, that what is her plan? So it's because she was going for both of them with that swing. There was no hesitation of one or the other. So see where
I feel like it was a good follow-up too to Ravonna springing into action at the end of the last episode where everybody seemed to be in a panic and Ravonna just went, okay.
Right. Time to handle some business.
Yeah.
And also two things about that. One, Ravonna went straight for the timekeepers.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. She wasn't
knew.
running around like, what's going on? She knew. She's like, I got to go protect whatever is or isn't behind that door. And again, Sylvie had this assumption that threatening to kill Loki would work. Like, it's like,
right.
Yeah. As soon as she says, like, I'll kill him, I was like, well, I know that nobody gives a shit about that.
That's the thing that we find out throughout this episode, because we've been built up to believe that Sylvie or the Lady Loki variant is a dangerous variant. Obviously, been killing Minutemen left and right in certain locations, but we find out that she doesn't know as much as we thought she knew. She's figuring the last steps of her plan out a little bit more as we go through this episode, which I think was a nice way to, for lack of a better term, humanize her and have us buy into the story more. Yeah, Mike,
I think that's true, but I think there's also later in the episode she does know some stuff that we didn't know. And
true.
Loki didn't know.
Very
and
true.
I think what's really nice about this episode, both in their knowledge and their action and their skill sets, is both of them on their own, ultimately not 100% successful.
Yes,
the two of them together, very successful.
We shall see, for sure. All right, let's move on here. They essentially end up in some tent. They battle for the tent bed. Sylvie gets the upper hand and just as she's about to basically eliminate Loki, she sees that the tent pad is out of juice. They have another back and forth, and Loki uses his powers to zap in and out of the tent to get his hands on it. And just as they're about to battle again, a projectile lands between them. In essence, a small little asteroid lands between them. Sylvie asks where he sent them. They step outside the tent, and we see they are on Lamentis 1 in the year 2077. I think the planet is about to crash into Lamentis. Is that correct? Lamentis is a moon. Did I get that right? Okay,
you did.
So the planet we see above. By the way, the visuals here, sweet Mary, Mother of God. The whole episode was gorgeous. So thank God they spent the money on this thing. They verbally battle about who needs help and Loki's foolish decision to zap them there. Then they start to run and they have to help each other avoid these projectiles. They ended up hiding inside a container. Sylvie tries to use her power in a quiet moment to enchant Loki, almost kind of seduce him a little bit, but it doesn't work, he says, because his mind is too strong. And I got some thoughts about that later. Sylvie realizes that he saved her, or calls him out saying, "You saved me because you want me to show you how to recharge the temp pad." Lady says her plans had been years in the making, and he came along, just ruined the whole thing. She wants to kill the timekeepers. And I wrote here, the visuals are insane, very Doctor Who. This is This is like Gallifrey. This could be Gallifrey, the end of Gallifrey. Yeah. Anyway, Loki, the Lokis, as I call them, walk to a town to look for an energy source to power up the temp pad. Sylvie reveals her name is Sylvie, which is an alias. Loki says Lokis don't need aliases. It's just as well because she can't be a Loki. Lokis need independence, authority, and style to be a true Loki. And she calls him out for working for the TVA. He counters that her plan was just to create a power vacuum, and walk away. He says he wouldn't have done that. She says, yeah, because I am not you. So, Emma, we get the back and forth here between these two, very much previewed through this entire sequence here. What stood out for you as you're watching all this happening on Lamentis 1?
Well, as you say, the visuals for me immediately called up images of Doctor Who. And again, the whole episode, it felt like we were watching an episode about two doctors. You know what? If the doctor could have an adventure with himself, that was that. Or it reminds me a little bit of the relationship between the Doctor and Ramona, who was also a Time Lord in the Tom Baker days of Doctor Who. So that was all really fun and exciting for me. And again, I think that they do such a good job of establishing the dynamic of these two very, very, very different people where, you pointed out the idea that Loki is somebody that does not have a plan. Loki is pure chaos. Loki just lives in the moment. He takes in his surroundings and whatever he can use to his advantage, he does. And with Sylvie, we see that she is adaptable, even though she is a planner. And so they really do, in a lot of ways, even though they're at odds with one another, bring out the best in each other.
Yeah. Shannon, what did you think about this whole sequence? Obviously, the visuals, you can speak to that as well, but this idea of his mind being too strong, do you buy that, or is that a delay tactic? What do you think is happening here between them as they go back and forth, both physically and verbally?
Oh, I totally buy that his mind is strong. His intelligence has never been in question. It's his recklessness. It's the fact that he does charge forward with no plan. The moment, and this was kind of a dumb moment that I had when that portal opens on the floor. I was just like, oh, did they go to the basement of the TVA?
I had the same thought though, Shannon.
I mean, I really was just like, oh, they're in the garbage room. That makes sense. Even in the TVA.
Soon the walls are going to start closing in. There's going to be a giant snake monster. Yeah.
So the great reveal of that meteor coming in, I was like, oh, that's awesome. And then as they're kind of running, it reminded me, it's like, oh, this is like Midnight Run, but it's two De Niros. I mean, it's literally two people that begrudgingly need each other because because of that temp pad. Yeah, it was gorgeous. I mean, clearly, you know, we've discussed this before, but Marvel is not afraid to spend money on their Disney Plus shows. But this, by far, in terms of scale, this is, they're putting a lot of dollars on the screen.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. What do you think, Mike, about their interactions here and about what we saw with some of the action sequences in these two pieces of the show?
Well, my first thought was when they held up the temp pad with the low battery with the missed minutes on it saying,
"Oh my
You're
God,
out of juice." I was like, the TVA has spent a lot of money on branding. They really brand their product. Like, did you really need to put missed minutes on there? Hey there, you're out of battery. But I liked it. Visuals amazing. To me, with the meteors falling, it just looked like literally the worst Burning Man ever. But a beautiful Burning Man, but the worst Burning Man ever.
Right.
This is where just their interactions and all the little bits, I like wrote down little bits of like I mean, first of all, the "don't call me a Loki." I mean, she is very clear, like right off the bat, "Don't call me a Loki." But watching them sort of insult each other in a way to try and suss out each other's power level. She's like, "Oh, so what? You're just fully a magician then? Is that one of your powers?" But you're like, she's trying to gauge what all Loki can do. I mean, they're just both testing each other constantly. And then, she's clearly the whole Lamentis thing. One of my favorite lines in the whole episode, I had to go back and like re-listen to it because like when they're running, it was hard to hear them.
Yeah.
She yells, I didn't need your help. Like he pulls her up and his response is, "You're so weird." Which I thought was just the funniest. Like, I didn't need your help. You're so weird. Like, it was so just weird and adorable. And like, the enchanting moment, just the comic timing of like them standing staring at each other and he goes, "What are you doing?" And she goes, "What are you doing?" Like it was just, there was like just the banter kind of back and forth between them. But what I did love, and especially when I rewatched it the second time through, you really did see that it was banter, but it wasn't just banter for banter's sake. Like this is, they are constantly sizing each other up. And even though, like I said, Loki is all chaos and just flopping around looking for any angle, and Sylvie's pretty direct, they are both very smart and they are both very untrustworthy.
Yeah.
And there's something really fun and satisfying about taking two, and this is why I think the episode really works, is you took two untrustworthy people and you put them in a situation that was so impossible that they literally have no choice. Like if they were anywhere else where either one of them could have gotten the one up on the other, they would have gone for it. Like they don't want to be together, but they're stuck in a situation where they have no choice but to work together. And so you just watch them continually butt up against each other, which I thought was really, really, really fun. And then, my name is Sylvie, don't call me variant. That's not who I am anymore. It's an alias. Like they did a really good job. And Loki literally says it at the end of the episode. Like they're giving us little bits without actually giving us too much. So they're just leaving us hanging, but they're giving us enough to know to be like, she's not just a Lady Loki. Like she doesn't act like Loki.
Yeah.
She doesn't have the same impulses as Loki.
Right.
And even like with the whole, like, well, like I'd have never have done that. And she's like, yeah, well, I'm not you. Like they are being very, very explicit. So whatever she is, as much as we were all like Lady Loki, Lady Loki, Lady Loki, that ain't it. That ain't it.
Yeah, I think we mentioned last week that she might be a combo of Loki and Sylvie in some form. And certainly the name, as Shannon pointed out, kind of alludes to the possibility of some form, some variant, some clone. I don't want to say clones, but some particular combination here for sure when you're watching this and you like the back and forth. She stands on her own. Someone compared it to moonlighting, for those of you who remember that reference, but it feels very similar to that as well. And just real quick, Lamentis, the planet that is falling apart here, was first introduced in the pages of Annihilation Conquest Prologue, which is the story that established the modern incarnation of the Guardians of the Galaxy. So it exists on the outer rim of the Kree Empire and is filled with scavengers trying to gather scarce resources via force. I'm getting this from Den of Geeks. So I want to give proper credit to them. So that's what you're seeing there. But the moon of Lamentis is what we're on, Lamentis 1, but what we see the planet breaking up, that is Lamentis. And of course, the purple hue is very interesting as well. But yeah, Mikey?
It's bisexual.
Okay. Sure.
The entire episode was just bathed in bisexual for us. But
it was.
But The one thing I did want to say, and I was going to say it in a little bit, but like speaking of the Guardians of it all, one of the other things I got to give Marvel props on is their consistency in the art design of space.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
James Gunn kind of came in and with Guardians gave us a space that was not a Blade Runner kind of punk future. It wasn't Star Wars. It wasn't Star Trek. It was this Burning Man meets theme park meets neon bar. Like it's such a funky, different take on space. But between what Gunn has done in the Guardians movies and what Taika did with Thor Ragnarok, and now with what they're doing here, they're very consistent in their space, and it's really cool because space in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I think looks unlike space anywhere else that I've seen it, and it's instantly recognizable. And so I really wanted to call it out because they could have, in the TV show with the TV budget, they could have justified doing something that was different, but just in the details of like even at the end when they're in the city in that long tracking shot, or in the woman that we're about to run into, but just the way space is built is very consistent and really, really beautiful and specific, which is awesome.
I agree. We're into phase 3, the middle of phase 3 in our MCU watch along. We just did Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, and just seeing the way James Gunn portrays space is one of the most beautiful things you ever want to see. I've seen many NASA documentaries; they don't look like that, and so it's great to see. And I love that they kept that going with this episode as well. Great point, Mike. All right, they roll up on that town, which looks a little maybe Blade Runner-esque, and they have 12 hours before the moon they're on is destroyed. So we have a timetable now. It's a future. It looks like a futuristic mining town. They find a place that could work to power up the temp pad, but then of course they go back and forth on who to trust each other. So they head on off to this other location, and this kind of looks like a trailer, a futuristic trailer. Loki says, "Let me handle this. Let's have some diplomacy." Lady Loki says, "Screw that." Kicks open the door and is immediately blasted about 30 yards away by this woman holding a massive gun. Then Loki says, "Oh, great, I'm going to try it my way." Shapeshifts into what is obviously this woman's husband or lover or whatever, tries to be nice to her, and she zaps him. She sees through it. She says, "He never said anything nice to me like that in 30 years. So she eventually she eventually serves as some plot exposition thing, tells them what's happening, tells them that everyone is going out on the Ark, which is an evacuation vessel. They want to know how to get there. She tells them to head on off to the train station, but they won't get a ticket. So we go to the train station. We see a bunch of people lined up. We see calls that like the rich people are getting on, the wealthy are getting on. We're being left behind. It's not cool. So both the Lokis, they kind of come up with a plan, but it's really Loki coming up with a plan. He kind of changes into looking like a guard, then kind of wheels her through these spaces. And then just when they're asking for tickets to get on there, Loki tries a very terrible attempt at saying the higher ups said, "I got to put this, take this woman back with me." And then the enchantress or Sylvie, noticing that this is going to get them caught, touches the dude and helps get them onto the train by saying that he got the message they're supposed to be on there. This is a nice train. It looks like those farther cars in the Snowpiercer train, like way at the front. Way nicer train here. They debate. They have back and forth here about what a plan is, and start talking about, they don't trust each other, so who should sleep, who should not sleep. And then they start to get into a really intimate conversation about Loki's mom, and we can see that still that gear is still there for Tom Hiddleston as an actor, but certainly Loki as a character, his love for his mom. And then he turns it around and asks Sylvie about her mom. She says, "I barely remember my mother," and reveals that she was adopted too. And Loki reveals how he learned magic from his mom and that she really loved him. And he said this really, I think this is the line of the episode. He said, "She was the kind of person you want to believe in you." And that is just such a great line when you think about Renee Russo and her performance in this character. Anyway, Lady Loki reveals that, or Sylvie reveals that she taught herself magic. They reveal that the lady that they had encountered died, so I guess they killed her. And then Loki asks if Sylvie has a boyfriend. She says she's maintained a relationship with a postman while running from one apocalypse to another. She asks about his love travails, and this is where he reveals he's bisexual, and then they drink. He drinks both of the champagne glasses. All right, Shannon, you're next up on the rotation to talk about this, and then we'll swing to Mikey. But I will say one thing before anybody says it. The postman thing stood out to me, and I stopped the episode because I'm like, wait, is that mother effer from WandaVision? Are they connected in some way? So this is where my mind went. But this is where she says a postman. That postman was such a big deal in WandaVision. It was never addressed.
That's
so
true.
I just wonder. So I'm throwing it out there. But Shannon, what do you think about this sequence?
I don't think it's the postman from Westview.
Okay.
I'll tell you, because the postman, that stuck out to me as well. I'm not hating on your theory. I'm just saying I don't agree. You're going to think my theory's dumb too. When I heard a postman, I was just like, what postman? Who delivers messages in Marvel? And I'm kind of like, well, the only person I can think of is the Herald of Galactus, Silver Surfer.
Silver Surfer. Oh,
but I know that's not right. I mean,
who knows? Could be.
But that was where my head went. Mm-hmm. I love how great a job the casting team does, because that woman who's in that shed and then the guy that Loki transforms into, small roles, but it's very easy for those roles to be forgettable. Those moments, and granted, there's some great filmmaking in there too when you blast both of them with the cannon. Both of those people, stellar actors. I love that old guy, like, immediately he just turns on the water like it's been a long time, and this is absolutely the type of emotional manipulation that Loki would use to achieve his objective. When they get to the train, I mean, I had the Snowpiercer vibes as well, John. Shocking how bad Loki is at clandestine operations if he is just changed his clothes.
Right.
I mean, it's just so stilted and awkward. Like, we got the call, I gotta get him on the train. But you see for the first time that the two of them working together is actually very, very successful. I love when they got on the train how Loki says, I don't want to ride going backwards. I'm cut from the same cloth. I will absolutely get sick if I'm on the monorail at Disney and I got to go backwards. But how Sylvie says, well, no, I never sit with my back to a door. And he's like, there's two doors.
There's
like,
doors all over the place.
Like, she does not want to expose that vulnerability because she doesn't want to go backwards either. I mean, the whole sequence, was just a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Michael, this is a huge step forward for the MCU, putting it out there. It was a little bit of a throwaway line, which is the way it can like be played in a way that's like, it's not that big of a deal, but it certainly was a big deal for them to have this interaction. Tell me what your feelings are about the whole sequence here, but certainly that exchange between him and Sylvie.
Yeah, I definitely have thoughts on that. So a couple things. One, I think you might both be wrong, and the postman thing was her joke.
I thought it was a joke too.
All right.
I thought that what she was saying when he was like, so do you have a bow? And she's like, yeah, I'm fucking going all over the place trying to take out the most powerful horse in the world. I'm dating the fucking postman. What do you think?
Yeah,
is the way that I read it.
I read it that way too.
But I could be wrong.
You're probably right.
I don't think she delivered it like that, but okay, all right. Maybe you're right. Go ahead.
That was the way that Emma and I took it. I'm taking
Fair enough.
On team joke.
Fair enough. Okay.
Really quickly, even before they got to the lady's house, when Loki pointed to the neon sign and was like, "Well, will that power it?" And she was like, "Yeah, maybe it will. Let me see this. Give me the temp pad." And he's like, "No." And she's like, "Then don't give me stupid them sizing each other up." And then I love with the woman. And the woman versus the train, you very clearly are like, Sylvie tries her way, fail. Loki tries his way, fail. Get to the train, and together, success. And I think that's very deliberate and important. And then I love, in each of these episodes, we've had these moments with Mobius and Loki, and now with Sylvie and Loki, where you're just riffing for a while. Like they were riffing on existence and predestination last week, and now we have a lot of riffing on love. And what love means, and is love hate, is love a dagger, like all of this stuff. And just the fact that they take the time to just have these little sort of character discussion moments as talking about the meaning of life as Loki is sort of outside of his existence now and trying to figure out where he belongs, I think is really, really, really lovely. So on the bi thing, they already had sort of released that when you could see in the Loki chart when it said, sex, it said fluid. And so to say the bi thing, and Kate Herron, who is bi, kind of came out on Twitter and said this was really important to her. And I read it, and Twitter drives me crazy some days because I saw the people that were like, this meant so much to me. I cried when I heard it. Representation matters. And then you see the people that are like, oh, they put one line that can be easily cut out. Call me when you actually have a bi storyline. Look, I hear you.
I do too.
I hope they continue down this road. And if they just say Loki's bi and that was the only thing they did and we never get more. But it does feel like the direction Marvel's going, it's intentional. And taking one of your big villains who has a show and very intentionally putting him out there as it's bi. I think that maybe because I've worked in the industry and I've had these, I've been in the rooms as a gay guy where you say, oh, maybe this character should be gay. And you just get the ridiculous pushback. I mean, I pitched a show recently where the response I got that was a gay show in animation, and the response I got was, this is a really great show, and I know it's really personal to you. I feel like we're not going to be able to sell this in all territories, so maybe it's just 5 or 10 years away from this show being able to actually be out there, but really nice job, pat on the back. Yeah. So I think seeing how much pushback there really is, I think I do give them a lot of props for Loki, the lead of this show, straight up saying, a little bit of both. I get that we want more, and I hope that we do get more, but it is a big, big step. It's just one step, and we need to do a lot more. But I feel like it was a big deal, and I really love how, kind of to your point, Johnny, I actually love that it's a casual thrown in line. Me too. Because I think that a lot of times when you sort of try and if he had been I loved a prince and a princess and it tore me apart, it can feel a little shoehorned in. And as they're just having this conversation, as they're sizing each other up, it's well, tell me about your mom. Well, tell me about your mom. Well, I never knew I was adopted. Well, I did know I was adopted. Right. So who do you got? A prince? A princess? Yeah, a bit of both. I suspect you're the same. It just felt so organic, and I think that's what matters. It's let's not make him not Loki. Let's make him who he always was. Loki for thousands of years has been fluid.
It wasn't a plot point. You know what I like? That's the way that I really enjoyed it. It was just naturally part of the story. And the thing is, even Kate Herron, the director, when she came out and talked about it on Twitter, she very much was acknowledging, I know this is a tiny, tiny step, but in something as big as Marvel, especially a franchise that needs to sell toys, this is a gigantic step. It is the first time that we have actively straight up acknowledged that there is a queer character. You know what I mean? Just outright said. And especially, and again, we are acknowledging here, this is one of the things that drove me freaking crazy about Star Wars. With Rise of Skywalker drove me crazy on so many levels, but we're not going to get into that on this. But the fact that they were
we don't got the time. We don't
know exactly. And they're saying, oh, there's going to be queer representation. And yes, there were those women that kissed, and that's great. But what were their names? You have to look them up in the visual guide. Yeah. We know Loki is the title character. He is the title character. And yes, they do need to do more. And yes, we do need to make good on the statement that was made in this episode. But the fact is the statement was made, and that is a really big deal. I was grinning ear to ear. I jumped off my couch and applauded during this scene because I was just so happy to go, oh my God, this character who so many of us have been upholding for a while as a bisexual icon is indeed bisexual.
Yeah. And that's a big, powerful step.
And I think
you got one more, Mike?
One more thing on that front, which is when you look at Marvel's trajectory, which has not always been great. It's to go from Tessa Thompson's character having an LGBTQ storyline in Thor Ragnarok that got cut, to having them make a big deal out of a gay character in Endgame who is just one of the Russo brothers in a support group, where you're kind of don't pat yourself too hard on the back. Right. But now to have this moment with Loki, all reports are saying that Tessa Thompson's storyline in Love and Thunder is actually, they are going further into the LGBTQ side of it. And we know that Brian Tyree Henry's Phastos in Eternals is openly gay, and that there's an on-screen kiss. So it's you sort of you look at their trajectory and you go, I don't think this is an isolated let's queer bait and throw everybody a bone and then never touch it again. They are clearly across the board building representation, and I think it's a good step that will be one of many, I'm hoping.
Yeah, and we're seeing the signs that they will be one of many, and that's overall it's a positive, absolutely. And and sometimes I get that people want to overturn things overnight. I get that, of course, but you got to understand sometimes when it comes to large businesses, it's a little bit of a glacial pace. But the fact that they're even moving forward is a positive. So hopefully at the end, so respect both sides of the arguments here for sure. Absolutely. But we'll get there, and it looks like they just wanted to open the door a little bit, and then people are going to start coming through in larger numbers, and it'll be fine. And look, Hulkling, if they do the Young Avengers thing, Hulkling is gay. That could be tied up. Remember, Loki essentially came out or was bisexual, I think, in Young Avengers in that conversation with Prodigy. So there is connections here they can kind of make to all of this as well. So it's there.
Prodigy, Loki, Hulkling, Wiccan.
Speed.
Yeah, Wiccan, right.
It is gay all over the place.
I love it. I love it. All right. On that note, let's move on to our next section here. We get yet another sumptuous shot of the death of the planet. Loki at this point is leading the people in dances and singing songs for them. Sylvie had fallen asleep here, and he is singing to her, and just when you think he might be flirting with her, he changes the pace of the song, gets into it, and then we see one of those wealthy guys that had come onto the train kind of walk out. Sylvie tries to stop Loki, saying he's drunk. She says that there are some people looking at him funny, which makes her nervous. Loki relays some terrible metaphor about love and a dagger and all that sorts of ridiculous, which she immediately shoots down. And just then some guards walk in with the rich guy who had walked out. They want his tickets, and then a fight ensues. And Sylvie has a smile on her face every time she goes into battle, which I think is an awesome character choice. And just when they have the upper hand, and Loki throws one of the guards out the window, then two guards pick up Loki and throw him out the window. And Sylvie goes, well, I got to get that temp hat. And she throws herself out the window, which I think is great. And then Loki pulls out the temp pad after he's getting berated by Sylvie, and it is broken. It is essentially just shattered. They make some argument about hedonism and how that comes into play and how it can damage a mission. Then Sylvie screams in frustration with all her powers and walks off. Then Loki sits next to her, and they have this chat about, do you feel better? Maybe you should try screaming. And then Loki suggests that they hijack the Ark as a way to get off the moon, because the Ark was destroyed in their timeline without them on it. So they think if they can hijack it, maybe they can get off Lamentus 1. So Mikey, thoughts on this one?
First of all, I love a good Norse song that's got a beat
as much as anybody.
Like he was having such a good. I was like, I would be in that bar right now. I would not be Old Man Crackers who walked out of there making the stink face. I would have been in there with him. Like, let's do this thing. The love is a dagger speech that he gives, I love because it's like. It's almost a good metaphor.
Yes.
It's almost something that Neil Gaiman would have written in Sandman, but it's not quite there. And as he was saying it, I was like, oh, this is and literally this was my thought process. Oh, nice. We're really getting it. Like, love is a weapon. This is good.
Yeah.
This isn't the best writing. And then he's like, it's not good, is it? And she's like, that was a horrible metaphor. And I'm like, I just love this show. Like, I love that they're always like just two steps ahead of me. I'll let Shannon talk the fight scene. It was a great fight scene. I loved it. But what I really, truly loved, Loki is the worst. I mean, he's the best, but he's the worst. Like, his plans never go right, and he always sort of figures it out. Like, I mean, you just think of, like, the Thor movies, Avengers, Thor Ragnarok. Like, you're just always like, he's just barely skating by, always. And it's such a joy to watch. And what I love about the scene where they're, she screams, she like flips out. He's like, do you feel better? And then you actually watch him in real time do what Loki always does, which is planet's going to explode. Yes. And we're on the planet. Yes. Mm-hmm. Everyone on the planet dies. Yes. And you just see him, he's searching for any crack in the sidewalk that he can slip into. He's like, okay, but the Ark, and she's like, explodes. He's like, but we were never. It's like, it's a joy to watch him just, Loki's got a Loki. And it's just so much fun to watch. And that was like what I really took away from it. I'm like, God, this is great. He knows this character so well.
All right, Emma, what'd you think about this whole back and forth between them, and then with the dancing and then the fighting? And then someone pointed out in one of the things I read that like the way he flies out of the train when he lands, it looks just like when he landed when Doctor Strange yanked him into that portal, he lands just in the same space and in the same manner. So what'd you think about this whole back and forth here? And do you think the temp pad is actually broken, or is this something Loki's messing with her about?
Oh, I assumed that it was broken, mostly based on the conversation that Mike brings up of the back and forth of Loki looking for the cracks in the sidewalk to slip in and just do what Loki does all the time, because Loki never actually has a plan. He just is there, and whatever presents itself to him, he takes advantage of. Case in point, throwing the guard through the window, and that backfires on him because then he gets thrown through the window.
That's true.
The scene where Sylvie yells and the magic comes out of her hands, it reminded me of when I get really angry and I'm driving in my car and I hit the roof of my car. If you have never done this, it's really loud.
Really,
it's really
Emma?
loud, but it's so satisfying. And I had a tour partner when I was touring with the Zula Children's Theater who warned me that she's like, sometime I might just get really frustrated, not with you, just like frustrated with life. And I'm going to yell and I'm going to hit the roof of the truck. And it's loud, but it's okay. And so then I remember one time, this was like when I was first living in LA and I was super frustrated about something. And I'm just like driving down Sunset in my car and I got angry and I kind of yelled and hit the roof of my car. And I was like, oh, wow, she was right. This feels great. And so like, that was true. Like that to me was just such a raw, real moment. Like I have been Sylvie in that moment and I know exactly what she was feeling. And again, it's the constantly seeing them being at odds with each other, but then realizing that like because they're two opposite sides of a coin when they find that happy medium. And so when Loki brings up the idea of, okay, this is our plan, we're going to get on the ark. It's never had us there before, so maybe we can fix it. And she just goes, okay. Mm-hmm. Like for the first time, she's like, you know what? I've just got to meet you in the middle at this point, because that sort of worked for them getting on the train. It was the combination of Loki's terrible acting and her enchanting, which I loved his bad acting, by the way, and I love a good space train. But also, I wanted to be at that party. That party seemed fun.
That was a nice party. I'm not gonna lie. That's for sure.
I love drunk Loki.
Apparently,
Shannon,
the hedonistic god of chaos knows how to party.
Well, of course, he's hedonistic. Why wouldn't he?
Who would have thought?
Shannon, what stands out for you here in their interactions? The fight on the train, jumping through the window, and their battles there on the ground. And you're right. What Emma brings up is actually a great point. Soon as Loki says, let's do this, Sylvie gives it a second, goes, all right, then she's up and she's going. Like she's got something to accomplish here. She's got no time to waste. So what do you think about this whole sequence?
See, I disagree that he has bad plans. He actually has okay plans when he sets his mind to it. But like I said last week, he goes too far. Had he just shut up and stayed at that table and gotten a little shut-eye, they would have gotten to the Ark, no problem.
Yeah, you're right. That's fair.
He's got self-destructive impulses. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, I mean, he tells her, "You relax your way, I'm going to relax mine." I mean, again, not a shock that a hedonistic god of mischief likes to party, likes to tip a few back. I mean, when it's funny because obviously the Asgardians are going to be stronger than these folks. We're presuming at least, but because he's also impaired because he's been drinking, the moment that presents itself, like those two guards to toss him out the window. I mean, the moment, like, I love the cockiness of the bye, which we saw in the trailer, and then to immediately get dispatched the same way. I mean, it's perfect. The thing that I really loved about Sylvie, because I love the frustration, because I think she probably does not have the point of view that Loki does, that basically all actions they're futile. Like, she has set the pieces on the board in a way to finally disprove this theory, and this dude shows up and knocks them all down. And that moment where she says, okay, I don't think it's okay, yeah, it's gonna work. It's okay, we have no other options.
Yeah.
That's my take.
And one thing about the train here, I forgot to mention this real quick. I think you guys might get a kick out of this. The guards are named Hicks and what's the other name from Aliens? The two guys, Hicks and
it's Hicks and
Hudson.
Hudson, yeah.
So the two soldiers at the end of the train are Corporal Hicks and Private Hudson. That's their names.
Oh, that's funny. I didn't notice that.
Yeah, so pretty funny to see that connection there.
Game over, man.
Put the Enchantress in charge. All right, as they walk, they discuss her abilities to enchant. So you see Sylvie opening up a little bit more about her abilities. Maybe she's had no one to really confide in who understands what she can do. So begrudgingly, she's letting her walls down a little bit as she's talking to Loki. She reveals that Hunter C20 was difficult to break. She talks about how she usually most people, as she gets into their minds, it's easy, but some people take a little bit longer, a little harder. You have to be more complex. You have to go back to a time where they were, a little more looser, a little more. So she said she had to go back hundreds of years into C20's past to before she worked for the TVA. And this stops the conversation cold because Loki is shocked by this. He says he was told by Miss Minutes that all of the people who work the TVA were created by the timekeepers to work for the TVA. So he says, no, they're all variants who are captured to work for the TVA. So yet another brick in that wall of us believing that the TVA is not as good as they pretend themselves to be. And Mobius is an interesting place too to talk about, or interesting thing to talk about too. These people don't know that they lived in another time, is what she tells him. And just then the Ark comes in. They arrive and see that the Ark is going to let all these people die. They decide to go around, and then this massive action sequence happens with the planet falling apart, all these things exploding. They're knocked back by an explosion. They get up to fight off some guards and then run around trying to find a place to get in. They fight off more guards, and just as they get there, the Ark is destroyed. And Sylvie, as quickly as she walked to this plan, she walks away from this plan and leaves Loki there to the song being played here, Dark Moon. And it's sung by a lady named Bonnie. I'll find it in just a second. But Emma, let's go to you here. Big reveal that everybody who works there essentially is a variant. And no wonder they employed Loki to kind of be working there as a job. Maybe this is how they indoctrinate people to be in the TVA. What do you think about these revelations and the final action sequences here?
Well, listen, we had a big conversation last week about who are the timekeepers, do they exist, what do they actually know, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. So I think that fuels this fire a little bit more because, again, we have yet to actually see the timekeepers. We have seen animated representations of them. We have seen statues of them, but we have not seen them, though they're supposedly behind those elevator doors. Up to this point, we've only seen people keeping others away from the timekeepers. So there is a level of who's doing the manipulating here, because there's clearly a bunch of manipulation going on that all of these people that work for the TVA used to actually have lives. And they are other people that did disrupt the timeline. And now they are part of the TVA eternally with no recollection of the fact that they were variants themselves. So again, and like Sylvie wanting to kill the timekeepers makes a lot of sense from the point of view of, I think that she did have an understanding of the fact that the people working at the TVA were not created specifically for the purpose of doing that. And they were, in fact, people that existed in other parts of time and space. So, I mean, the TVA is up to no good. That's clear. But again, it's that whole idea, again, the conversation that Loki and Mobius have in the last episode of the idea of like order and chaos. And so if you have people who are, whether super willingly or just kind of unwittingly agents of chaos, then their way of dealing with them is to brainwash them and make them a cog in their machine.
Like a cult, right? They break you down, take you back to a place and do all those things to you mentally to make it seem as if you did all these terrible things bad. So we're going to show you how to do these things good so you can, be tied to this. It's crazy. Right. The song is Dark Moon is what I meant. Bonnie Guitar is the woman who sings this one. It's from 1957, this song. It feels like it's just recorded nowadays, but a number of people have done a version. Elvis Presley's done a version. Chris Isaac has done a version. But there's a line here. Mortals have dreams of love's perfect schemes, but they don't realize that love will sometimes bring a dark moon. So nice references here throughout. Shannon, what did you think about this final conversation here and all the actions that led to them realizing the Ark got destroyed anyway? What are they going to do now? Yeah.
I mean, huge reveal. And, we talked about this way back before Spider-Man Far From Home came out, when in the trailer they're talking about that Mysterio was from an alternate timeline or another Earth. And we said then, like, bad guys lie. So who lied in this story? It was Miss Minutes. And it's like, okay.
Oh yeah.
She was the one who said, the TVA was created by the timekeepers. So the idea, and also we established in episode 2, it's like, are you a recording or are you real? Well, I'm a little bit of both. Are you though? Because you lied about this. What else are you lying about? I mean, I don't think Miss Minutes is going to be the big bad, but I think she certainly plays a part.
But if she is, what a fucking ride.
You know what? I accept it.
The villain is Cogsworth's niece. But the actual sequence was great. I mean, and you see that moment. I mean, and you're really seeing it from behind as they're kind of walking into the town. That moment where they do agree to work together. Like, can I trust you? You can. And I mean, just a great fun action sequence. And I love the fact that the moment the Ark explodes, she does a 180. She's like,
done.
Right, I'm out.
On to the next thing. Exactly. How do I get? Because her goal is to kill the timekeepers. How do I make this happen? Of course, there's probably a deeper story to tell here, Michael, about her anger towards the timekeepers. What's this all about? Even her anger towards being called a Loki. Did something happen in another timeline that connects the Loki and the TVA in some way that affected her life? We don't know, but there seems to be little allusions here. Also, at the end credits, we see these pictures of Loki and Sylvie together. Even Loki dressed up as the guard there on these, would you assume to be the TVA's desk. So maybe they're not as secretly hidden as they think. So what do you think about all the things that happened here and this discussion about the TVA recruiting variants to essentially be brainwashed soldiers for them?
Yeah, I mean, well, look, even if she's not a Lady Loki, given her garb and given her one broken horn, like, she is tied to Loki in some way, which is why she so much does not want to be referred to as a Loki. So, whatever she is, whatever blending of different things from the comics she is, like, there's clearly a relationship there, and it's going to be really interesting to see how that uncovers. Look, the TVA, like, that was a big reveal. It's going to be really interesting to see what Loki does with that information. I was... when someone like Cap gets information like that, he's going to go straight to the source and be like, you're doing something wrong. What's this about?
Is he though? He let Bucky off the hook. Is he though? Anyway, all right, go ahead.
Okay.
Let's not start that battle. He hid that shit from Tony for her, but all right.
But I'm just saying that, like, Loki is going to use this information to his advantage somehow. It did make me think that Mobius probably in a former life rode some jet skis. You're really like,
oh shit!
That's
a great point.
This jet ski thing isn't I love jet skis, wouldn't that be great? Like, that's something that probably is from your life before you became a variant, and you don't remember that. And so it'll be really interesting to see what they do with all that. The TVA, man, I'm really curious about them, about the timekeepers, about what's really going on behind those curtains, and I cannot wait for all of that to be revealed. I think it's going to be really, really interesting. I just think that I really loved, kind of to everybody's point, I don't think that Sylvie turned away at the end like, I'm on a mission, I need to do this. I think that they've reached the dead end here. Like, she understands how this works, and unless there's a major Deus Ex Machina, which there will be because there's 3 more episodes, like, in the world of, like, what she understands, like, they're out of options, they're dead. Like, she didn't turn away like, now what's next? She turned away like, well, all right, sit down, have a drink, like, we're done.
Look.
Well, at the beginning of next week, we're going to find out one of 2 things. One, the TVA has now gotten wise, thanks to Loki, that she has been hiding in apocalypses and will show up and get them in just the nick of time and pull them out. Or we're going to find out that she was enchanting Loki through this entire episode to try and get something from him, and this was all a hallucination. I think that's likely.
You son of a bitch. You son of a bitch. You took my final point. That was going to be my final point. I think this whole thing is a lie. I think she's enchanting him from the beginning.
Oh, man.
And she said, Mike, that's a great point. She said it there. She said, with stronger minds, I have to be a little more elaborate with my enchanting. So I think this whole thing is an enchantment from her. Great, Michael. Great point. I'm glad we're on the same page on that. I was thinking that too.
I was really hoping Mobius was going to come in on a jet ski and save the day.
But I do think, Emma, one last thing I wanted to say. I think we're going to end up with Mobius, Sylvie, and Loki on the same team against the Timekeepers.
Yeah.
We can tell already Mobius has been having these questions. The fact that he lobbied for Loki, there's something subconsciously that is pushing him towards helping Loki, or opening the door, like Loki questioning him about these things. It just seems to be lining up that way, don't you think?
Yeah, I do, but I also can see a world wherein there would be a twist where he would be the villain, which I don't want because I want the 3-person team up.
Right.
But
against the 3 Timekeepers,
anything could happen. Oh,
3 versus 3, and who knows where Ravona's gonna fall on this? Yeah.
Well, I was saying what's really interesting about Ravonna, and really we don't know where she is or what she knows. Like, I tend to think she's leaning towards bad guy, but I think they also want us to think that about her.
Yeah, right.
And what a reveal it would be if you found out that she was being manipulated as much as anybody, and Loki comes in and drops this bomb, and the entire TVA is like, "What the fuck, Timekeeper?" It could go anywhere.
And she also is the one that pointed out to Mobius in the last episode that he had left the ring from the glass on the table in her office, but he didn't remember.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, that could lead to, and he says that could lead to what happens in the comics, which is the TV in the comics. They clone Mobius multiple times. So is that a separate clone Mobius that's happening? I mean, once you start throwing clones in, I might jump through the train window myself. But let's keep it what we got. So, all right. Any final words on this episode before we wrap? Anything we missed or you guys want to talk about?
I mean, I love that theory that it's one giant enchantment. I don't think that's right because I don't know. I don't know to what end right now because she was just after the Tim pad. I mean, the moment that I could see like the enchantment starts the moment she touches him. But at this point, like she would have gotten the Tim pad already. That's why I don't think that's right. But there could be an objective that I'm not seeing yet, and this enchantment theory could be 100% correct.
Right. I mean, unless the broken Tim pad is like a metaphor in this enchantment for just another frustration of her not actually being able to get through to him and convince him to give her the Tim pad.
Right. Maybe manipulating him to be in service to her. Yeah, Mike.
Shannon's 100% right. Like as I was like, is this an enchantment? Because what a trick that would be. And they really did set it up, especially when she's explaining enchantment in great detail.
Yeah.
I don't know why she would be doing it or what she'd be trying to get, but there might be at the very beginning of the next episode, as Lamentis is about to explode, that's when she asks the question, and then you find out. But I tend to agree with you. I think that might be a stretch, but it definitely just crossed my mind.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah.
I think so. I think it's possible because I think she realizes that she needs Loki to complete this mission. So she's been manipulating him the whole time. I think so. I think it's a possibility. How about that? I think it's a possibility. And she might be leaving the portal door open long enough just for him to jump through, doing all that stuff that she did, and making him make these mistakes that ruins their mission here to get them off the planet. It puts him in deference to her, puts him in debt to her in essence. And so as she kind of slowly works him and starts to slowly reveal a little bit more of herself, he thinks he's got the upper hand when in fact she does. So that's possible. I'm just throwing it out there.
Just come across a Screen Rant article, MCU theory, Loki episode 3 was all a trick, every clue. So it's the idea is out there. The idea is out there.
I'm just saying. I put it out there. All right. Well, there you go. That's our spoiler review episode for episode 3, Lamentis of Loki Season 1. Thank you all so much for watching this episode or listening to us on the podcast feed. You can always do that as well. And thank you very much to the awesome and lovely and talented Emma Fyffe for joining us yet again. Emma,
Thank you for having me.
Where can they find your brilliant takes on everything? Please let them know.
Yeah, well, if I'm not getting into fist fights and using my tiara to just impale someone with the horns, you can find me all over the internet at Emma Fyffe. You can find me doing stuff over on the Venn Download YouTube channel. I recently wrote a video, 16 reasons to love Final Fantasy for fandom gaming. So I got work out there in the world.
She's
just
busy.
Follow me on Twitter.
Yeah, and when she punches the roof of the car, don't point it out. Just keep driving.
Just keep
driving.
Keep going.
Shannon, what do we have to tell them?
Yeah, I'd like to follow us on social media. On Twitter, it's at Geek_Buddies. On Instagram, at _Geek_Buddies. If you'd like to follow me on social media, on Twitter, it's at Shannon_McClung. On Instagram, at Shannon the Geek Buddy. If you would like to follow Mr. Vogel, it is at MKToon. If you would like to follow Mr. Rocha, it is at The Rocha Says.
Mikey?
If you are LGBTQ or just an amazing ally, we're glad that you're here. And we would like you to stay and bring more people to the conversation. So here's some things that you can do for us. Smash that like button below. Subscribe to Johnny's Outlaw page. Check out all the awesome comment. Leave your comments below. Is this an enchantment? Is it not? What do you think? What is your reasoning? What's really going on? Who's behind the TVA? Is it Miss Minutes? Are we going to get a giant clock battle? What is going on? Tell us below. Let's talk about it. And then if you are listening to us on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, leave us some stars, leave us some comments. It helps us go up in the rankings, which is the best way for people to find us. And then the best thing that you can do is retweet this video, post it on your social media outlets, like tell everybody that this is the place to get the in-depth look at Loki and all of our MCU shows. And then just keep coming back because I think we're halfway through and I have a feeling these next 3 episodes are going to be one fucking crazy
Wild.
ride.
Yep, 1,000% agreed. All right, there you go. Thank you all so much. We'll talk to you next time on another brand new spoiler review episode from the
Geek
Buddies!